Hi, I'm Nicole
and Rebecca
from conquerbooks.com.
and today we're reading Exhalation by Ted Chiang, a collection of short science fiction stories that feel like they have an entire think tank behind them rather than just one author.
We really like this collection of science fiction short stories. Exhalation, the cover story.
Wait, don't you hear that?
No. So Exhalation.
No, the clock is ticking too fast.
No, your brain is slowing down. Keep up. Exhalation, the cover story.
No, seriously, don't you feel that? Time is off.
Maybe we better have a peek inside that skull. So, did you know you're a robot?
Huh. So something is affecting the speed at which my brain is processing?
Yeah, but luckily Ted Chiang's come up with a solution. Though, nothing is infinite.
Well, hopefully short story number 3 doesn't happen to us too. Exhalation is a short story that the entire collection is named after, and it's a terrific story about a robot civilization, and they get the sense that something in time is shifting, something is changing, and one robot takes upon himself to dissect his own brain and find out what's going on. And this book was really great to read in the collection because I felt like it related to a lot of themes you saw in the other short stories.
This beginning story, Exhalation, they start with a New Year's tradition of people reading stories that last an hour, but they go over the hour. So the concern is time slowing down? Is something going on? And the guy, like Rebecca said, dissects his own brain and comes to a terrifying conclusion, terrifying to their civilization at least.
Yeah, and it had a lot to do with thinking about their civilization, but also ours, because every science fiction story is really about us. Thinking about the finite timeline that civilizations, planets, even the universe itself has. And so it's a pretty big theme for a short story to tackle, but it was really well done. It was really readable. A lot of science fiction gets really bogged down in jargon and confusing things. And even though this is really intelligent writing, Ted Chiang does a wonderful job of bringing you along in a way that is very active.
In every short story he's got in there, he comes up with a particular piece of technology that changes the whole landscape. It's not like he's developing these whole elaborate worlds. Their short stories, they're rather short, but what he's doing is implementing a very specific piece of technology that has very big repercussions for the society around it. And it's fascinating because he delves into the lives of the actual characters and how this technology is shaping them.
And these big concepts are exactly why one of Ted Chiang's short stories was made into the movie Arrival, which is about aliens making contact with Earth, coming here, and then having to study language to be able to communicate. You know, he really takes these big picture things and puts them on a human level, so you can visualize what it would be like if you yourself was going through it. One of the short stories I really liked was the life cycle of software objects. And this really hit home with me because I had a Neopet when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I hope you did too.
Yeah.
But in this short story, there's essentially this virtual world that people go to, and they have the futuristic equivalent of a Neopet. They can buy these little animals that are intelligent. It's the start of artificial intelligence, and so they're learning to talk and to do human things like study. And some of the people lose interest over the time, and they just leave their animals and they never come back. And so it brings up a lot of ethical questions. And so in this digital world, do those creatures have the same rights? Should we feel the same way about them when so many of the owners decide once they're bored with it, they suspend their lives, which means that they're just essentially paused? Or if they start acting out or behaving naughty, you can roll them back in the timeline so that they don't learn those things and try a different thing. It made me think a lot about parenting and how you're trying to do the right thing, but you only get one shot at that. But in this world that Ted Chiang has created, you can do whatever you like to try and get the results that you want. And so there was a lot of conversation over personhood, over ethically what you can have an influence on in other people's lives. That was, I think, the longest short story in this collection, but there was a lot of content to cover.
The short story that I chose to talk about is also pretty long, and he does have a few shorter ones, but these long stories, he really takes his time in showing you how these new technologies really, really impact people's lives. The short story I'm talking about is called Anxiety is the Dizziness of Freedom. And it is about a world, and also he doesn't always explain that this is like far future. There was a story even where it was in the past, and he's still putting these technologies in. So this is kind of like today's world, but he's got this technology that's called a prism, and it's described as just this little blue box, and you flip it on, and there's a 50-50 chance that it's going to light up a red light or a blue light. And depending on which one of these lights light up, the timeline splits. It's this very simple decision which way it's going to go. And then you are one person on one side, and you can talk to your paraself, he calls it. So you can talk to yourself on the other side. So in that story, we're following two different characters. The first character is named Nat, and she works at the shop that's allowing people to talk to themselves. And she gets a lot of people who have this obsessive problem because they're almost jealous of their paraselves when they're making decisions that lead to bad consequences, and they're wondering why this paraself has been able to make good decisions, even though they're technically the same person. And the other character's name is Dana, who's a therapist who talks to these groups of people who have been really impacted by talking to their paraselves. He talks about a decline in ethics in society because of this. And it's such a long story, and there's so much in it that it's almost like a mini novel. It's amazing. And it talks about who you really are as a person and why you would make these different decisions. I could talk about this story probably for a half an hour because it's so great.
Yeah, this is a very readable set of science fiction short stories. I think we definitely encourage you to check it out. His stuff is really great. We also reviewed the collection Tomorrow Factory last fall, which is a collection of short stories by Rich Larson. And there were some similarities. Obviously, they're both science fiction authors writing short stories, but a lot of question over personhood and making decisions and thinking about technology and how that impacts like this small piece of somebody's world on a ground level as opposed to like something really big and broad.
Very deeply. And he almost talks about these technologies as if they're characters themselves. He takes a lot of time to discuss all of the different impacts it would have on people. And it's really amazing to see him branch off into different technologies and different things that they could do and how they would affect people. You should definitely check out this book because it's got some really amazing technology that you almost wonder where Ted Chiang came from. Like, what is his background? I always wonder that with writers. And this guy is really intelligent. I think you'll be really floored by some of the ideas he's got in there.
Our next book is going to be an exciting one. It's called Fall or Dodge in Hell by Neal Stephenson. And it's about a character named Dodge who is a multi-billionaire off of a gaming company that he started. But after a routine medical procedure, he's pronounced brain dead. However, he wants his body given to a cryonics corporation that then later is able to upload his brain, effectively defeating death. And it's interesting to see what's going to happen in this deathless utopia. So join us next month. We're Nicole and Rebecca from Conquer Books.
Bye.